Hi guys, this is Ali Baqir Khan with another episode of Youth Alumni Association. Today we've got SamaTanveer here with us. And Sama, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good as well. Thank you so much for joining the good cause today
My
regarding,
pleasure.
career counseling and how to build entrepreneurs, because this is something that's really important, not just in Pakistan, but in countries like everywhere globally. I think it's going to help people out. So let me just introduce Sama a little bit. She's working as a product insight analyst at a US-based company known as Degree. That's the name Degreed. I'm so sorry about
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
And she has done her BS in economics from LUMS and MS in business analytics from Central European University. She also went for an exchange program to ESSEC. I think that's the abbreviation that she told me. That's one of the best places to actually go ahead and learn something out of it as well. So
That's
first of all, thank you so much for joining in, Sama. My first question would be regarding your career journey once, when you were a child and the way you started off with your high school. What did you feel at that time? Did you have a certain goal in your mind that this is what I should become? And did your parents want you to become something? Can you please tell a little bit about your educational career, starting from your high school?
Yeah. So for me, my schooling was from Beacon. So during my O levels, I had engineering subjects because I was always more of a math person. Because मुझे रटा नहीं होता, तो what I have to do is I can learn formulas. If things make sense, I can do it, but I can't memorize stuff. So I was in engineering. I had in my O levels, I had physics, art maths, chemistry, and computer science, and I loved computer sciences. And I think that was a really good subject I chose throughout. So I was really happy. And then I got 7 A's in my O levels, which was a good result. And when I finished my O levels, a lot of the smarter kids from my school, they all went to Lyceum, Nixa, or even grammar. And usually the people who came to Beacon were people who were coming on scholarship.
Okay.
So then I saw a very big shift, because when I was in O levels, I was living a different lifestyle. I used to go to Noshat, I used to go to Imran Merchant, and they used to be really fancy kids who were aiming for distinction, who had all the resources to go abroad for their masters. And that was a different crowd. And then when I was left in Beacon, that was a different crowd. But I think that was a really good humbling experience for me, because for me, I was able to say, oh, I want to go to Noshat, and my dad could afford it. But that was when I actually realized that people really had to study very hard to get those A's in A levels that I could get through good tuitions, and people had to do it themselves.
Yeah.
And that was a good humbling experience, which I believe a lot of friends of mine who left for Nixon and Lyceum missed out. And then when I was in A levels, I wasn't that good in studies. It could be because it could be arrogance.
I mean, you just told us that you got 7 A's in O levels, right? So what happened in A levels? Like, is it because of the
it wasn't
subjects?
like I wasn't studying. I was studying.
Yeah.
It's maybe I think it's just that I didn't have that competition in my class,
I see.
maybe I was under the impression that, oh, I'm so smart, I can do it in the end, and I would wait till the end, and then during my mock I would realize, oh no, I think I messed up, I need to do this. But my A level results were fine. I had 4. I had maths, I had physics, and I had computer science, and I had media studies. My parents were not happy with
studies is really interesting. Yeah, this is where I would want to ask you, who was the one who actually asked you to go ahead and choose this subject?
Nobody asked anyone to take media studies. My parents were against it. They were like, you should take like another math course, or like maybe take chemistry. And I kind of wish I listened to them, but I was like, no, I really enjoy media studies, and I love doing it. That was the best part of my schooling. I loved media studies. We made opening films. We studied media in depth, like different scenes, different writing. I love doing it. My teachers were amazing. We had a whole room to ourselves. We were 7 kids, and we made really nice projects. And 2 of my classmates are now actually in the media industry, directing good projects. I'm really proud of them. But my parents were not happy, and they blame media studies for all my bad results, even though that wasn't the case. I was just one of it.
This is a certain stereotype in our minds, when
is, right?
a child wants to pursue fashion designing or media studies, or something like that. I don't know why is that culture.
I wouldn't disagree. If I have to talk to someone, I think now I would do the same, because that was what was practical then. Like it did not help me. I enjoyed my time, yes, but it did take a lot of my time. If we had to go out for a shoot, it would take me 6 days, which I could have been home studying something else. So I don't disagree. I enjoyed it, and I'm really
Okay.
happy I did. So I don't regret doing it, because that was my decision. So I'll stick by it.
I have one question here. I mean, since you're saying that you now believe that, it could have been really hard if you were to go to media studies and all that, that's what you're trying to say, 6 days of shoot and all, right? But
No. I think my point is that wasn't a subject, because if I wanted to go to media, I didn't have to study media in A levels.
okay,
I could have done that after my bachelor's. I didn't
after
have to,
bachelor's.
like, that could have written. At that time, what was more important was my grades that I get in my maths or physics. I'll finish my journey, then I'll tell you why I said that.
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead.
So yeah, so once I got my A-level results, which were okay, then LUMS opens up. If you know, LUMS admissions open way before your A2 finals, and LUMS has a minimum requirement for A2, but they have a really high requirement for O-levels exams. So I started studying for my GRE, and part of the reason why I messed up my results was I studied a lot for my GRE, because I knew this is very important for me right now. So I studied a lot. I got an okay GRE score. My aptitude was never that good, but I studied a lot. So this is one thing about me. I studied really hard. I may not always get the numbers I want, and I study way more than my friends did, and they always got more numbers than I did, but I studied a lot. So for example, for SATs, I remember there was Baron, there was Kaplan, there was this SAT, I think there was College Board, and I think there was another. And then there was a Baron's workbook series, which had 6 workbooks for math and 6 for English. And I did all of them. So that is how much I studied for my GREs. So I was studying for my GREs, which is also why I wasn't studying as much for my A2s. And then I got into LUMS, thankfully. And when I got into LUMS, I wanted to apply for computer sciences. And they didn't let me, because they said you don't have 3 science courses. And guess why that was? Because I took media studies. I didn't have 3 science courses.
Your media studies is still stuck, somewhere in
your career. Because I really wanted to do computer sciences from LUMS. I wanted to get into that school, and they said you have to give an art exam, which is a LUMS. They take their own aptitude test. I think it's.
But what do you think about career counseling at that stage? Do you think if someone was there to guide you at that point of time, it would have helped?
I wouldn't have listened, to be very honest. I wouldn't have listened at that point. At that point, maybe a year later.
There were people helping you out, like your parents. They were saying,
I was the only girl in my family who did O levels. Okay. And I was the youngest, eldest. So anyway, I didn't have examples, and anyway, my family didn't have a lot of family friends or even relatives. I was in a city where we didn't meet relatives. I only had my friends, and most of them had good guidance from their elder brothers, sisters, but I didn't. I see. But honestly, at that point, I wouldn't have listened either. So it's okay. But when I wanted to get into computer science for LUMS, they made me sit for an exam, and I had to choose 3 out of 4 science subjects. So the subjects were physics, chemistry, biology, and math. I could do math and physics, but I couldn't do biology and chemistry. Biology, because I've never read it. Chemistry, because I didn't do it in A-levels. Then I had to go to NESSN and study chemistry during my A2s, the whole subject again, only to appear for that LUMS exam. And I couldn't do it. But I was able to get into LUMS business school. And then the idea was that I'll go to LUMS, and within a year, I'll take a transfer. So I got into LUMS, and even going to a LUMS was a journey, right? So because I'm moving from Karachi to Lahore, and it's never easy leaving
so you're actually home. From Karachi, your hometown was Karachi. And then you came to Lahore. Did you come because of LUMS exactly, or were you?
Yeah, only for LUMS.
I see. Yeah. I see.
So it's never easy.
And why not IBA? Did you apply in IB as well at that time?
No, I didn't apply in IBA because I got into LUMS, so I didn't feel the need to.
I see. So how was your life here at LUMS? Like, you came here finally.
LUMS is the best time. I think everywhere I've been in my life is because of LUMS. So I remember during our O week, which was our orientation week in LUMS, the dean told us that this will be the hardest part of your life, and this will be the hardest study you've ever done, and you will have a lot of sleepless nights. And this is because we are not preparing you to like graduate from here. We're preparing you to like conquer the world. We want you to go to Ivy Leagues. We want you to like be someone. So we will be so hard on you that you won't find life as hard. And I can guarantee you that was the case. LUMS was very hard. LUMS was a pool of all the smart people from Pakistan because they don't take under 7As.
Yeah, I've
So
been
imagine,
working for LUMS, so I have quite an idea because I'm in Lahore as well. So I have an idea how LUMS works, and it's a very good university. There is no doubt about that.
yeah, but it's not that easy. So the issue with
Yeah,
LUMS was that you're getting all the people, for example, who had minimum of 7As in O level. So they're all smart people.
yeah.
And you bring them together and then you say, now we are going to do relative grading on you. So
Mhm.
you know how relative works is I could get a C on 80% and someone could get an A on 82% if there's no standard deviation. And if you bring a pool of all smart people together, there is no standard deviation.
Hmm.
And there'll always be someone smarter in the group who would bring the mean up. And then you have to study endless slides and just end up with the C. But that C is so important because if you don't, then you would be a dropout in the next semester. So that's a lot
Which
of
is
pressure.
fine. I mean, if you're building, entrepreneurs, if you're building good people, smart people, you need to have certain criteria. I mean, we're talking about
It's
getting admission in Ivy League. It's not that easy. Obviously, you
it's
have to
not
work
that
hard for
easy.
it.
So which is why I'm
Yeah.
saying after LUMS, when we did masters, when we did tough projects, when we faced difficulties in life, they weren't as difficult because we've been doing
Yeah.
that for the past 4 years. And that was a different case for my sister who was an IBA because her batch was in absolute grading. So when this instructor would feel like, oh, I made a difficult exam, he would lower the mean and they would still pass. And for us, we would still be competing with other people who might have known that earlier, and then we wouldn't pass.
Okay.
So LUMS was very difficult, and it really did help me in my master's and like throughout my life. I've done my master's. It was in a new discipline. It required me to code. I didn't know how to code, but it wasn't as hard as LUMS.
I see.
Yeah.
So it was a good experience overall. Now let's come towards a little bit of your professional journey. But my one question still remains. For example, a person who's listening out there, who wants to apply in A levels, because I got a lot of students, asking me these kind of questions that what subjects should we choose in A levels, or if they're going for FSC, or whatever the medium is. So if he or she's really interested in becoming a fashion designer, let's for example, or someone really wants to choose a career in music, why do we disregard such careers in our lives just because of payoffs? I think this is where the entrepreneurial mindset should begin, that we should let them go ahead and choose those subjects that they feel that they're interested in. But again, they think that they're interested in it. Why? Because they watch a good TV star in Hollywood, maybe Tom Cruise. Okay, I really like him, so I want to become an actor. So do you think at this point of time there should be a little bit of career counseling in your whatever school you're in? There should be a counselor to actually guide you a little bit, that okay, that if you choose this is what how you have to live with it, and this is what the prospects are within a country like Pakistan, US, Germany, or Europe. Because at
Have you
that point
seen
of
Miss? Yeah,
yeah,
I
did
get
you get
your
my
I get your
question?
question,
Yeah, yeah.
but I would say there's a time to everything, and O and A levels is not the time, and your bachelor's might also not be the best time. I was into media studies, and I got the best time to do it was within LUMS. I was
I
in the
see.
executive council for LUMS Media Art Society, and we made three mega films, which went to award shows and film festivals in Canada,
Can you
in
name us one
India.
of those, because we'd love to watch those as well if they are
Yeah,
available
you
on the
can
internet?
look for Khatte Falak on
How do you
YouTube.
spell
You
that
can
exactly?
let me type it for you.
Yeah, I think that would be easier because
There was Khatte Falak. There were two more. I'm not sure if they're uploaded, but if you just search up LUMS Media Art Society, and you will find a lot of projects that we've
okay,
done.
now I have another question. Now, since you told me that you had a chance to go to LUMS, now LUMS is a university because I used to be a part of HR Confluence, Synergies, and all those good events, marketing colloquium and all. So my point is that, for example, if a child is pursuing A levels, right, and he or she wants to become a doctor, now next 5 years of their career journey is going to be biology and all those science subjects, so they wouldn't get a chance in their lives after that to go ahead and pursue the media studies. So if they think and feel like, okay, A levels, I might just choose, because this was a question that someone asked me, that I so want to go ahead and become a doctor, but I love English literature as well, should I just choose that subject, or like media studies, or XYZ? So what would you suggest them particularly, like should
I would be surprised if people were saying that when I was young. I would understand why they're saying that, but now Like you have Facebook, you have Instagram, you have TikTok. 10 of my doctor friends own a bakery.
Okay.
One of my doctor friends has a honey business, which is very thriving. And I think 15 of my doctor friends own a very famous vlog.
Okay.
5 of them are posting websites. 3 of them are doing fashion designing on the side, and these are doctors.
I see.
If I talk, have you seen Miss Marvel?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So over there's a whole soundtrack by Hassan. Hassan was in NAMS. He was in my class.
Okay.
He didn't study music. He wanted to do music. He was in NAMS Music Society. He now has his music in Miss Marvel. So he didn't have.
Some of this is Lums that you're talking about. I do understand.
I have another doctor, for example. They're all from Karachi.
CMH, or let's, for example, a medical college that's like a government, Allama Iqbal Medical College in Lahore.
Yeah. So for me, most of my doctor friends are back in Pakistan because I know them from my OA levels, right?
So you go ahead.
Most of them. So one of them owns a debating society in Karachi.
I see.
And he has gone to so many debating competitions, and he now also has his own tuition firm where he talks about debating, not something medical.
Okay.
And I've seen all of my doctor friends do what they want to do once they've finished their house talk, and they were able to do it, but they didn't have to mess up their medical exams. When they had their medical exams, they were studying for their medical exams. But now they're doing everything.
Prioritize. That's what you're trying to say. Yeah. You should always prioritize what you're good into, and you should look into the dynamics. And I was speaking to a person, and he said that one art that we guys should know is how to, unlearn and relearn again, because things are changing rapidly. Coming towards your professional journey, would you like to throw some light upon, how did you come to this product insight analyst? Like, were you interested in it, or did you actually get what you wanted to, or you still are in, some situation where you think this is what I might have become if not this?
I think this was the question. So whenever I was a kid, not my parents, like they kind of gave up hope, but anybody who would come home would ask me, "But okay, kya banogi?" And I didn't know. Like I'm young. How would I know? And I feel so proud telling you this because I actually didn't know. I had people around me say, "Oh, doctor, oh, engineer, oh, accountant," and I couldn't answer, and I didn't want to say something I couldn't be, because I've always been that person. If I say I'll do this, I'll do this. And I never couldn't answer that. And now I'm so happy that I didn't, because the fields I've chosen didn't exist by then. And there's a very high chance that the fields you will end up doing won't exist by then. So right now, looking at your own sample, which is of elder people, like 2 generations older than you won't have those fields anymore. Most of them will be replaced by automation. So they won't even exist. So if you're saying, oh, I want to be as successful as my father, I'm sorry, like that was good for your father, but that might not be the best for you.
You need to know what's going on these days in order to actually go ahead and progress.
Yeah, I wanted to do computers in LAMS. I couldn't get in. I was upset. When I saw engineering kids in LAMS, I was like, oh my God, they live no life. And that was very difficult. I was struggling with economics. I was like, there's no way I can do this. I dropped it. I graduated with economics with a very bad GPA because economics was hard for me. It was all ratta and I couldn't do ratta. And LAMS was very hard for me. And when I graduated...
But on the other hand, LAMS was the best part of your life as well.
It was the best part of my life because LAMS groomed you, and that was very important.
Yeah.
But after LAMS, I knew I wanted to do data analytics. And that involved programming. And now I was like, oh, I've never done programming. I've never coded. I've never done any of it. And that was a 10 months program. I was like, can I do it? Because in those 10 months, I will have assignments. I'll have to do everything, like very difficult stats and everything. Will I be able to do it? But you have to do it. Then I came for my master's and I was able to graduate with the dean's honor list. That was the first time I got a good GPA, because my
that's really bad.
My LAMS was a bad GPA, but I could do it now. And
I see.
Only because LAMS was so hard that this didn't feel hard anymore.
So you are satisfied with your career journey. That's what you're trying to say.
I am. You should be. You made.
You should be is one thing. You should be as, like, obviously, but I mean, for the coming generations, now there is a word entrepreneur, because I used to work for Berry University in Islamabad in 2013 for Center for Entrepreneurship and Leadership. Now, people used to come with a lot of, projects and ideas, but, a lot of people were out there who did not even have the courage to go ahead and, excel their dreams and what they're good at, because few were lacking in finance, few needed investment, but their projects did not get approved and all. So what is your message to the youth out there? Because, the current crisis that are going on, obviously everyone is facing. Let's even talk about the upper middle class or the elite class. Everyone is talking about, prices hiking and all that. So in this kind of atmosphere, don't you think an entrepreneur, can actually create, since you mentioned that a lot of doctors that, they're doing their own things like bakery and running their own projects. So why don't we come up with an ideal mindset? As Eleanor Roosevelt once said, that there are three kinds of people. First category is who talk about ideas, and they are the best category. The second is who talk about events, and the third category is who talk about people. So do you think we are lacking this aspect of coming up with new ideas instead of going with the flow? Isn't it time to actually come up with something and in which we have hearts to help people out and create our own journeys, create our own vision of what we are supposed to do? This is the message that I want you to give to the youth, based on your experience. Go ahead.
So a lot of my friends have good businesses, a lot of them. Okay. But I just want to say, like, oh, you have an idea and you're not doing anything about it. So have ideas, have those discussions. Don't shy away from those discussions. So if you think you're not meant for business, it doesn't mean you don't talk about it. Sit with your friends, talk about it. You might have an idea, they don't. Yeah. And you might not be the one to pursue it, but they might be one. So you might influence someone else with your ideas. A lot of my friends who have businesses now didn't start off having a business right after graduation. My dad wanted me to have one. I wasn't confident enough because I can't just take his money and then be like, oh, sorry, I messed up. Because it's not easy to earn money. It's very hard. And while you're a student, you don't know until you start earning how hard it is to get money. So definitely. I wanted to be like, if once I enter the field, once I start to work, I build connections. Once I build connections, I know what type of discussions they're going. You need to do market research. You need to do product market fit. There's so many things you need to do before you just come up with an idea which looks nice to you. So you need to understand what things go in the process. I would highly encourage everyone to join startups. I'm in a startup right now. It makes a lot of difference. When you join a startup, you see the infrastructure. If you're in a small company, a small company doesn't have like 1,000 employees, it has 15, and you have to do everything. And those 15 people will be touching different areas that you'll never get to touch otherwise. Yeah. And once you see everything, you build connections, you see, okay,
a lot of room for growth, actually.
A lot of room for growth. Yeah. So learn first. Like, you have an idea, work on it on the side. But join a startup, learn how it works, learn it on the ground, and then execute it. This way you'll be more confident and you'll have more resources. And a lot of the friends that did business for me were working full-time somewhere. And that kind of makes sense. And this is how usually people do is, unless you're from a business family and you don't have a lot of funds, you need to get funds first. So once you have a stable job, you have a stable income and you lock it in. Okay, this is what I get monthly. This is the share I can get out of it monthly. And this is what I can invest. And this is what I can reinvest.
Plan it out. Plan your journey.
Plan it out. Like, whatever works for you, it won't be the same for everyone. Yeah. But don't just waste your ideas. Like, you have a lot of potential.
If you've got those dreams, just try to go ahead and work on it and be consistent. Don't give up easily. For example, if someone is not appreciating the fact that you're doing this. I mean, I started this idea back in 2015. And I used to work with a guy who came from Silicon Valley. And, we guys were going to different tier 1 institutes like TNS, Beacon House, LGS. And, he had a vision to actually implement 2 apps. One was VidMaker and the other one was In Class. So we were shocked, actually astonished to see responses from people from tier 1 institutes that they do not want any apps just for the sake of 100 or 200 rupees. And they did not want to make it digital. So because they asked the parents, and the parents were from the background that they did not want change. Now, change is a word in Pakistan that people do not like to actually go ahead and, adapt with. I don't know why, because there are settled business of people who just want to just go ahead. They want their children to go ahead and run their own businesses. And believe it or not, I've seen a lot of people, a lot of fathers influencing their sons to actually go ahead and run their own businesses, even if he or she does not want to do that. So how
that would happen? That would continue to happen, but
it would continue. But how can we change that? I mean, you cannot force. Since Sama, you were the one who took your own decisions. You wanted to take media studies, you chose it, and then this was your own journey that you actually transformed into. Today, you were, you went for an exchange program to, as you were saying, ESSEC, right? and this is one of the best experiences as well. Like, you know, it's an honor actually to be a
I mean,
part of such.
I took difficult decisions. I decided to do a master's I had no background in. I graduated. I decided to do a job in a country I didn't know any language in.
Yeah.
I am working from Germany for another company. For this one job that I have right now, I had to give 80 interviews, 60 tests. And by test, I mean
80
coding
interviews.
tests. 80
You-
interviews, 60 tests, and my applications were above 500. If there was someone else, they would have stopped applying after the 30th rejection. You have to be persistent if you want to do
80
it.
interviews. What was the journey like?
Interviews, and by interviews, I mean interviews of
Connecting and
different,
then, yeah, of
four
course,
different
panels.
interviews.
I got it.
And the
I got it.
most difficult part with my job is that you have to give coding tests. So if I'm saying 60 tests, those are 63-hour-long coding tests.
So coming from the BS economics background, then actually you went for business analytics, right? And there, I mean, that's where you learned the whole thing about.
I mean, I didn't learn everything. Does 10 months teach you everything people learn throughout their undergrad? No. It just tells you how you do it, how things, it just tells you how things work. You have to do it.
Again, my question was, I mean, you didn't exactly specifically answer that. I mean, how can we change that? If it is you, for example, you're the prime minister of a country, okay, and I give you that authority to go ahead and change mindsets, what would you do different?
Yeah, I was saying that I would disagree. I remember when I was in LUMS, LUMS has this entrepreneurial center, and my friends had the startup Savari. And Savari was basically, we didn't have Uber or Careem back then. So it was the same idea. You had an app, you could book a driver and you could book a ride. And I saw we had a lot of resistance, because how can we send our kid with an unknown driver? What if they get kidnapped, or like how could you, right?
Yeah.
And Savari faced a lot of backlash, but they were still somehow lucky that they were incubated within a university. So a lot of university kids, for example, for us from Karachi, we needed to go to the airport. So it was better for us if we chose a Savari than an airport taxi, because the price difference was big. And then Savari got acquired by Careem. And when Careem came in, there was acceptance in the market, but there's always
it was
a company.
The idea and your idea.
This
actually
always happens with any. This happens with any business. The first time you run with a new idea, you might probably fail, or you will face a lot of resistance. And the second time you come back, that is when you will get accepted, because the market is already created. But that's not a reason enough to not try, because they got acquired by such a big company then.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, I would like to quote one more thing here. I think we are transforming into a world where we are too much into social media, which is fine, but there should be a limit of everything. Try to prioritize your schedules. Like, for example, Iqbal once said in one of its things that खुदी को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से खुद पूछे बता तेरी रजा क्या है. I still remember when I was in my high school and college and university life, I've read these kind of things, and it wasn't me. I mean, there were libraries we used to sit and read as well. I still would prefer reading a novel instead of actually reading that through my laptop or my personal cell phone. So do you think it's time for us to actually start thinking? And I was reading Dawn the other day, Dawn newspaper founded by Muhammad Ali Jinnah. And what does dawn mean? Obviously, sunrise. That's the time where you actually need it. But unfortunately, the culture is changing a lot. People don't read newspaper early morning. They don't have breakfast. So do you think this is affecting our lives, or do you think it's okay to just go ahead with it?
I mean, I could say based on my generation, but then if you read studies about Gen Z, Gen Y, they're different people. It would be wrong of us to expect them to do the exact same things that generation of millennials did,
what
for
your
example,
parents
right?
had,
So
what we guys had, and what the new generation is
they're
going to
just different people. If you try to force them, they'll just think you don't get them, and then they won't listen to you at all. But my thing is like open your brains, right? So for example, when I put up stories, I get a reply, oh, you're always traveling. So in the last year, I was able to travel to, I think, 35 different places within Europe, like 35 cities.
Nice.
And oh, you're always traveling. Oh, you're always traveling. And I'm like, bro, do you understand it? I had to get a job for this. And for that job, for this travel, I needed a job that paid. And for that job, I had to work so much. I had to give so many interviews. I had to be persistent. I had to study a really difficult program. I didn't say, oh, I want to study an easy program. If I chose marketing, I would have never gotten a job in Germany. If I chose media, I would have never gotten a job and it could be that I could have gotten married to someone in Germany, but then I would have never had a career all my life because they speak a different language.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to have this lifestyle where I'm able to travel, where I'm able to afford luxuries, I had to choose a career that pays. And for that, if you're someone who do plan to shift out of Pakistan, do remember that then you'll have a language difference and not all the careers will accept you. If you're a doctor, you'll have to give a lot of exams for you to be accepted. If you're a lawyer, then you'll have to go through a whole process again just to be able to practice in that country. So if you're someone who plans to move out, if you're someone who wants to live a certain lifestyle, just you'll have to make it for yourself. So if that's what attracts you, if that's your life goal, to be able to travel to 40 countries, then you need a job that pays. So does fashion designing pay you that much?
Depends.
I mean, depends, right?
Yeah.
And
depends on your goals. I mean, if I'm satisfied with an income that, where I'm not able to, for example, afford a lot of luxuries, but I'm following my passion and that's and I'm happy. So that's fine for me. So don't always focus on monetary values. Happiness is the main thing, right? You chose media studies at that time because you wanted to be happy. You thought okay, I might be good at it. And you went to LUMS because it made you happy at that time. You chose to visit European countries because it made you happy. There might be a person in Pakistan who wants to just go to, maybe K2, for example, just to, Mount Everest. So if that's what makes them happy, just pursue your goals. That's
also,
eventually...
I worked in a financial firm. People would die to work for JP Morgan or, all these really fancy big names. I worked for Morgan Stanley. And I didn't like it. That wasn't the environment for me. It for my dad, that was the ultimate thing. Just end up to Morgan Stanley US, and there's nothing that to make you better. But that wasn't for me. I don't understand this environment. For me, I hate the environment that financial firms have. They're so competitive. They won't respect you if you don't have a CFA. It's just a culture I don't want. So that didn't make me happy, but that might make a lot of people happy. So what makes you happy is very different than what makes others happy. And this is a problem with parents too. So a lot of my friends, when they were getting married, their parents thought they would be happy if they settled outside, even though it was different for them because they wanted to be settled in Pakistan. So happiness is different for everyone. So you have to know what your goals are and then see if that life decision makes sense. Because for me, when I made this type of decision, I didn't know. This field that I'm doing right now didn't exist back then. It's a new field.
So and try to get into it, and there would be a time when you would know exactly that this is what I am good at.
You would always know.
Try to explore your inner self. Try to go out in the stadium, and only then you would know how to play. Sitting in the room and gossiping about it, the quote that I mentioned, that the last category is of those people who just comment on different people, that okay, this is what she did, and especially in girls and guys is too these days. I mean, we are just in a society where we like to comment a lot on lots
social
of things.
Social media is a lot of pressure, and it's fake pressure. Nobody's showing you the struggles on social media.
Just, yesterday I was watching a post in which someone just posted some negative thing and people were just commenting. This is not helping the other person out, right? Instead of doing this, try to utilize the time, try to create those agencies in which we are trying to go ahead and helping them out, right? Because that's what they need. They don't need a post from our side to just, elaborate their situation. If I'm a person who would see a post, I would definitely like to contact and reach out or ask my friends to go there and help people out. So we should also try to take some time out of our busy life schedules and help each other as well. Sama, we've just got, a minute left. Thank you so much for your time. Any advice that you would, like to give to the youth out there, particularly globally, who's listening to you, that, this is what you should keep on doing?
So make difficult decisions. You can do it. Everybody has the same brain. God didn't differentiate on birth. So if others can do it, you can do it too. But take difficult decisions. If I go back, I'm only proud of the difficult decisions I made and not the easier ones. And they'll make you happy. And every time you're able to do something, you'll come out as a new confident person out of it. So don't shy away from that. And about the social media, I mean, it's there to stay. So I'm not going to say stop using it, but try to use it to your benefit. If you see some, for me, the only way I get to know social issues in Pakistan is through social media, but I would really want someone to come up with a solution for it because they read something on social media and they had an idea. Oh, I know how to solve this. And you maybe come up with an app that
and that's what I'm trying to
track
do as
human
well. That's what
trafficking, for
Youth Alumni
example.
Association is trying to do, to come up with people who can explain their career journeys, and then people can get help out of it. Thank you so much, Sama, for your time. And it was really nice having you. In future, if there is another session that we guys can do, I would always love to reach out to you again, and would carry on the good social cause, of course.
Yeah, and share my LinkedIn, and
definitely.
Thank you so much. And it's such a great initiative. Wish you all the best.
Thank you so much for that. Guys who are listening to us, do subscribe to our channel, Youth Alumni Association. And you can get more of these podcasts. There are different people from different countries. So whatever you think is good for you, just go ahead and click, and you can reach out to them as well. So take care of yourselves, and bye-bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you.